Hi everyone, this is Natalie Alicia Gold, and I'm here with my dear friend Joe Martin, coming from Chicago. Joe, how you doing?
And Natalie, it was a quick trip over here. This was nice. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, and I feel that I'm interviewing you and getting in your information. And even before this interview, you're giving me nuggets of wisdom beyond belief. So thank you for that. You are a gem and a treasure. So I want you to introduce yourself to our viewers and tell them a little bit about who you are.
Sure. I'm Joe Martin. I'm an author and entrepreneur from Chicago. And my biggest thing is I left the corporate world to start my own company. And then I realized I was running my own company just like the corporate world. And so I decided I wanted to find out different ways to work. And one of the things that I settled on was this idea of working for 6 weeks and taking off for two. And so now I teach companies how to work for 6 weeks and take off for two.
So are you in your 6 week cycle right now or in the two?
Just ended last week. So we're on the first break right now. So it's planning, it's looking back at the last cycle to see how things went. Because believe it or not, a lot of shit in the last 6 weeks. A whole lot of
No
shit.
way. Just so people know that we're taping this on, let's check the date, June 25th, still in the midst of COVID.
Don't worry, that statement is actually relevant for the next 7 months. So we're
100,
good.
at least. We'll be lucky if it's only 7 months. So I'm so thrilled that you're spending your 2 weeks of downtime with me. That really means a lot. And I'm happy also to know that this is for you play and fun as opposed to work, which is great because for me it's the same way. And I love doing this and getting to the mind of brilliant people so that we can share our wisdom with the world. So Joe, tell me about, what happened for you in the last 6 weeks and what kind of realizations you're coming to in this break period.
Going through some shifts. The COVID, I don't think I realized the extent to which it really impacted my business until this point. That when I started to realize just, okay, no, it took away a very large chunk of revenue of what I was doing. A lot of the time, effort, and everything I spent building up was in the tourism industry, and tourism went kaput. And I'm hoping it's coming back soon, but I've been looking at just what else can I offer? What else can I do? And this idea of just teaching more of the productivity in the 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Let's build a better world. I feel like COVID gave us this little reset button on work culture.
And
And so
life
now,
culture.
yeah, and we get the chance to rewrite it. So let's write a better future that isn't work dominating our life, and it's work-life balance, because work-life balance is bull. We know this, but let's make it life with work.
Totally. And I think that is the big message here, right? I mean, the truth is that it wasn't working. The old ways, people are like, is this the new normal? Well, this is just the way things are going to be now. The old ways weren't working. It led to more than 50% divorce, obesity at an all-time high, people depressed beyond belief. That shit was broken.
We were still using, I loved it, a colleague of mine said it this way, that we were still using industrial revolution style tactics. And now we've been forced to adapt. We've been forced to update all at once here.
Which is pretty remarkable. You talk about 6 weeks, literally all the changes happened within a matter of weeks.
Yes. Which was rather, I'd say the amount of COVID hitting as well is that every time you have those 2 weeks off, it is this chance to reflect. Like, what went well? What didn't go well? How do we make it go better next time? And so I am so used to constantly evaluating the business, evaluating that, evaluating my own happiness, that COVID was one more big boulder that hit, but there's always a boulder. There's always something messing with us. We're entrepreneurs. We get knocked around constantly.
Totally. I think Elon Musk said being an entrepreneur is like eating glass for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you just deal with it. People, and here's the thing too, the difference between the mind of an owner and the mind of an employee. And Joe, how does that work in your 6 week, 2 week off process, right? Because if we went around to our employees and said, okay, these 2 weeks you're off, you're not getting paid, and it just would not. So when you're talking 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, you're really talking to the entrepreneur. Is that right?
It is, but it's in the business sense, we're going from about, let's say, 80% productivity down to 20%. So those 2 weeks off, like I may still need you to answer emails, But the big thing you need to get done over those 2 weeks is plan out your next 6 weeks. So I don't care as much about when you do it, it just needs to get done. And then that's what then we review together with the employee. So there's little empowerment there.
Because you're taking the entire company on this journey, not just the one at the top.
Correct. Yeah, when I was the director of product for an international remote team, and I had the chance to start implementing it and rolling it out. And we would do cycle overview sheets. So at the beginning of a new cycle, we would send something out to the whole company saying, here's what we're working on. Here's the goals for this cycle. Here's a fun cooking challenge we can all try to do together. And I had some of the people from the South Africa office respond back and say, this is the first time we really felt like we're part of a team.
Really?
And there's ways that we can still build this culture remotely that I'm hoping people realize that.
Inquiring want to know.
Communication. So what I found out, the more I dug into the world of conversion rate optimization, and that's what my agency does. So much of that is really understanding who is your target customer, why do they want to buy from you, what does that customer journey look like, what are they afraid of in buying from you. And at one point while running the agency, I realized I knew more about my customers than I did my own employees. And so I took this whole system and then flipped it internally to say, let me look at the employee journey for my developer. And I noticed that he woke up at 6 a.m. His wife already left for work. So he got his daughter and his 3-month-old daughter ready for work. And then he would come to work from 9 to, or ready to go to the grandparents. Then he'd come to work all day and work 9 to 5. Then pick up the kids before she got home, make them dinner, get stuff set, clean them, do laundry, maybe have a half hour for himself, if that. And he does this 5 days a week. And then on the weekend,
too, Joe? Seriously? I mean, I'll give you my
Tell me.
address. Send him right now.
And then it doesn't stop, because on the weekend you got these little fellas the whole time.
100%. The weekend is the hardest time when you're a parent.
Yes, and you still have to find time to make time for family, to go shopping, to take care of your home, to move in and settle and do things. That when was I giving my employees a chance to take a break, to have that one day of just mental clarity? Because when they take a sick day, it's usually not because they're sick, it's because their child is sick. When they take a vacation day, it's not because they're sitting at home taking care of the house, it's because they're taking the kids somewhere nice. Like, every time that we don't give working parents this chance to just breathe just a little bit.
Wow. This is really flipping the entire corporate world on its head.
It is. And I'm not the only one waging this war. Jason Fried at Basecamp has been waging it for years. I'd first heard about the idea of working for 6 and taking off for 2 from him. That they talked about how they tried 6-month cycles and 3-month cycles, and they eventually got down to 6 and 2 is what worked for them. And his big thing was like, I don't know if this not magical formula, but this is what we found works. And I immediately went back to my company and I was like, we're gonna work for 6 and take off for 2. And then it was awful for the entire first year.
Oh God. So, it's so interesting, Joe, because as you're saying it, what's coming to my mind is truly the Bible and the Torah, the Old and New Testament. It's about, work for 6 years, rest for the 7th, or you take the Sabbath on every week as a day off and fully unplug. And even, I'm Jewish, and the 3 biggest things in Judaism are keeping kosher, so having boundaries on what you put in your body, keeping Shabbat, so having that day of rest and the day of rejuvenation and retapping into the spiritual, and a concept called Nidah, which is basically between a husband and wife to keep things fresh all the time, that from the moment that the woman starts her period to, a week after she's finished with it. So basically 12 days out of the month, that there'd be no sexual relations between the couple. And in speaking and what you're saying, it's bringing that concept to my mind, because it's really like, okay, we're going to work for 3/4 of this period, but we're going to then rehash our commitment to one another by stepping back and truly saying what worked, what didn't, and keeping it alive.
Hmm.
So it's a pretty amazing to think how it's all kind of comes back to to the Bible.
Well, and if we go to the second one, to that idea of having that rest,
Yeah.
like, let's define rest for a parent, because having a Sunday off with your kids around the entire day is not rest, and having to get stuff done around the house is not rest. I wanted my developer to have a Wednesday that he can go steal his kid out of school for the day and go take his daughter to the zoo. Like, that's the shit that really matters. Or take a day and just hang out in your boxers all day while your wife is at work and the kids are being babysat, that you just hang out, play Xbox, do whatever you want to do. Because I think I'm going to get a better employee that following Monday if
No
he has
doubt.
that little bit of time.
And Jill, like the truth is the 8-hour day or the 10-hour day or whatever, it just doesn't work. I mean, really, in a work culture, how much of that day is spent with people bullshitting on email, Facebook, LinkedIn, blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, no, I'm working because it's LinkedIn. I mean, no, you're not. A lot of the stuff you're doing is just like looking at what's being posted, and then it sucks us in, right? Because it's like,
Mhm.
oh, like I read this one and then this one is scrolling and this one, and how much engagement am I getting on my post, and why is no one liking my post?
Yep.
So and look, like if you start looking at TikTok, which I don't even go on, but the second you start looking at it, you're there and you turn around, it's an hour later. So your point of productivity is well taken, that are we truly being productive by having this work time that was a traditional 9 to 5, etc., with people working from an office, which we know has been like completely shaken up because of COVID.
Yeah.
But are people taking their bad office habits and bringing them into the home where they're now working? That's the question.
Hmm. And I feel like I should have asked you if it was okay to swear before this started, but let's
Yeah,
just
of
talk
course.
about time real
Please,
quick.
come on.
Okay, fantastic. Because time is another bullshit metric.
Yeah.
Like, it came from a point in time when we were overseeing large groups, and the only way to measure productivity among those large groups was they were here on the factory line,
Right.
starting at X time, closing at X time. And we let this idea of time dominate our entire life or society. That if you go to school for X amount of time and then you go to college for X amount of time, we'll let you work here from X amount of time until 5 p.m. And don't worry though, we'll give you 2 weeks off. Like, it's all time based. And time, I think when you're an entrepreneur, you start to realize that just because you sat in front of a computer for 8 hours, the company did not make more money.
No.
That it's about things actually getting done. And a
money
big one for
you
me
make
is,
less.
yeah,
I have to pay your ass to sit there. And if you're not enthused about working here, I'm losing money, because then every customer you take that energy to, and you don't know what the hell is going up, down, sideways. And that
hmm,
assembly line culture, Joe, is so ingrained in our society. I mean, for example, law firms. So, when I'm not talking and trying to empower the world, I'm a practicing attorney. And the fact is that the system is broken, because if you're a mom and a practicing attorney, you're either on mommy track at a big firm, or you're likely going to choose not to have kids. And why is that the choice? Like, why do you have to bill that many hours to clients? Because now the client is on the other side of you. You want to bill more to screw them as much as you can. What the hell? I mean, why not just pay for the product? And I truly think, Joe, that especially for women, this pandemic has brought to light their level of productivity without having so much time.
hmm. Okay, tell me more. Tell me more. Give me an example. What are you thinking there?
So here's the deal, right? Like, if you had to clock in, clock out from a typical job, right? You had to make choices. You had to have either your kids in school or a nanny, or no kids. So all of that was taken away. There was no school. There were no nannies coming because of the level of risk. So your kids were home with you. You were teaching them. So now you're a teacher and employee or a boss. and everything else, a chef, a lover, a mom, a dad, whatever. But you still have to perform because the clients still want their stuff. So, and believe you me, like, I bet you any amount of money that when it comes to productivity and efficiency, there's no one better than a mom. Because we have to.
Yep. I don't mean to shoot moms down here, but sometimes mom, like entrepreneurs, go into the world of multitasking as well.
Yeah.
And that we're going to try and get multiple things done at once. And we're just not as effective when we multitask. That we are so much better. If we say we got these 5 things to do, this is how I'm going to do them, and I'm going to do them in this order. And then we get them done just so much faster.
How do we do it? Because we're entrepreneurs, whether women, men, mom, dad, single, not, we're all kind of stuck at home right now. Mm-hmm. And the world has changed. So how do we close out the noise and the multitasking and the million things going on and get into a place of true focus, is what I'm hearing you say, mm-hmm. to be the most productive person that we can be?
You get a hold of me. But if I'm not available to help you. So on the site, if you go to 6weekcycles.com, you're going to find a weekly planning sheet, and you're going to find a Sunday night planning session replay. And those 2 things will get you started. That the biggest thing is we need to look ahead at the week. I bring it all back to time. And the whole world right now, almost every app that's built for time is built for time after it happened. That it's all about the past. How much did you get done? Mark down how much time this task took. I want you to shift that little mindset to just make it, well, how much time is this going to take? I'm going to spend 2 hours getting this done. Because even just that little bit of a shift, that then all of a sudden Parkinson's law comes into play, which is that thing that we all went through in high school when you were given 6 weeks to complete a project, but you got it done in just 3 hours the night before because you're that incredible. Like, we still have that. We have that power to still get it done if you tell us what we need to do. And so it almost needs to be like past you telling future you what to do. That here's your list, Natalie. Go do these things and you're going to do amazing this week.
So speaking of time, you have a nice little TED Talk about time. Tell us about that.
I do. It's time travel. Time travel has always fascinated me. And what I found out was, I think I started realizing I could kind of write my future. That if you write down what you want, you write out how you're going to get it, and all of a sudden you get it. And totally. That when 3 or 4 months go by, like they just have with all of COVID, the time has moved slow and fast at the same time. It's really weird phenomenon. But all of a sudden, just as a little bit of planning. And so if we look at time travel, I think the most powerful thing we would get from it is the future version of you walking into that room with you where you're watching this and then saying, here you go. Here's the list of everything you need to do.
And that exists, Joe, right? I mean, like, we know if we still our mind and truly meditate and get ourselves in a position, I mean, at least for me, and I think for you too, from what you just said, it's clear what has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's clear I think it's the noise and all the like running on the treadmill kind of thing. Like you're running, you don't get anywhere. And the treadmill is a really good example, right? Because it's like we stay in our little hamster wheels
mm-hmm.
But the truth is, the inner you knows, right? And I believe that we really pick, as you just said, that we create the future. We're co-creators with the universe. Yeah. And I also know from a Kabbalistic perspective that if we want something, it belongs to us. We just have to work for it.
Yep.
So how do your top 3 things, like of how to truly connect with that future you so that you make time travel a possible thing and kick ass and work in life and truly be able to live the life you were meant to live?
All right. So let's start down with writing down 3 things that make you happy. Let's start there. Let's use that as our guiding star. And you can't just say, my kids make me happy. No. I want to know specifically, what is it? Is it doing dinner with them? Is it playing what with them? Just really get specific. What are these 3 things make you happy? That's what we're chasing. The next thing we need is just a little bit of time to actually plan. If you can do, just trust me, just trust Joe Martin on this one, and just take a half hour each morning before the workday begins. That's only 2.5 hours out of your entire week, half hour each day, and just plan out your day. Set a timer for 30 minutes, spend that full 30 minutes just writing down what you have to get done, and start to see if that helps. And then the last one is just keep reiterating. Is that once you get to the end of a week, look at that week. What went well? What didn't go well? How do we make next week go better? That's it. 3 things make you happy. Set aside some time for planning, and then constantly be looking to improve.
I love it. I so love it. Joe, and I just know that the amount of wisdom you imparted will be so valuable to our viewers. Thank you so much for your time. And I cannot wait to meet the future you. Hopefully in the new episode down the road, which, you know, maybe we'll be on a live network. Let's put it into existence, Joe. Let's make it happen. So, Joe, it's been a pleasure, and always so much fun with you. Thank you so much for your wisdom and golden nuggets.
Thank you for having me, and then thank you for doing this, because I think that this is the important stuff. We need to push these messages out there. So thank you for taking time to do this.
Thank you, Joe. All right, everyone. Joe Martin, check him out, 6weekcycles.com, and make sure that you start planning your future you. Hold on one second.